Hello, everyone. Today we have the privilege of having Professor Dame Wendy Hall at University of Southampton Delhi. She's one of the most influential voices in AI today, and she's literally carved the evolution of web science, advised governments on AI strategy, and has literally done it all. So thank you so much for being with us, Professor Hall. To start with, one of the things that I've always wanted to ask you as well is you've been through a very long journey of seeing
I'm old.
No, starting from where the web started to generative AI models. I mean, it's been a complete transformation in technology. When you look back, which of these phases do you think have been the most profound shift?
Well, I suppose, to be honest with you, it goes back before the web to the introduction of computers, really, because that was such a shift, such a ground shift in terms of machines being able to do things that we couldn't do. Even the introduction of the calculator was quite groundbreaking. I always tell the story, my father was an accountant and he retired in 1980 before computers or calculators really existed, and he ran his accounting department was everybody did everything by hand. Long division, he could divide pounds, shillings and pence by pounds, shillings and pence in his head. They did everything. They had to copy all the ledgers all the time, and as the machines came in, all those jobs disappeared. And we worry today about the jobs that are going to go with AI, but computers have transformed our world. And then everything after that has been a successive layering of things. So I did the multimedia work, and then the introduction of the hypermedia and the web systems, and web science, and now AI. So I see it as an evolution rather than the media hype at the moment that is, AI's different to any other introduction of any other technology. I don't think it is. I think it's going to be profound, and it's going to help us do things we couldn't have done before, and there are risks. But, you think about computers. There's huge risks in terms of using computers. Look at all the cybersecurity risks. Yeah. It's another way of fighting a war. Yeah? But I don't think AI is going to be any different, really.
What do you think this shift, accumulation of shifts, as you mentioned, mean for students who study computer science? Or, we've got much more specialized degrees now. We've got degrees in AI, in data science. So what do you think these rapid shifts and how volatile technology is getting mean for students who are doing computer science?
Well, in a sense, they are not as rapid as they're sometimes sold. And the impact is not felt as quickly as the hype will tell you it is. So as we live through these revolutions, the world around us doesn't seem to be changing. Yeah? It doesn't really, does it?
Yeah.
What has changed in your life so much since last year or the year before? You can talk to ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yes. So in my world, we had calculators. Amazing. We could stop using log tables and slide rules to do the partial differential equations and everything. And the web. I remember when we used to talk about web years being like 6 weeks or something, because it was all happening so fast. But as we were living through it, the transition wasn't as fast. Our lives went on. Now, the interesting thing about computer science is it's a very modern subject for people to study. If you go to university to read physics or chemistry or maths or geography, they've been around for a long time as subjects generally, whereas computing is a very new. We introduced at Southampton, and we were amongst the first to introduce a computer science degree in 1984, just as I went back to Southampton to be a lecturer. And we had 16 students. Right? Today, 40 years later, we have 400 or 500 students. And it took a long while for people for schools and teachers to recommend that students went to university to study computer science. It was because it wasn't considered one of the science disciplines. And it's becoming much more fundamental now. But this takes time. And I think this is, I mean, we you know, the hype around AI, the term AI was coined in 1955.
Which is long ago.
Which is a long time ago. Now, of course, you couldn't do then, because there were no computers, let alone the data. You couldn't do then what you can do now. But it's taken that long because it's not just the concept of AI, it's the infrastructure you need to make it happen. And you can see those stories in other technologies like the railways. You know, you had to have the infrastructure, the railway network, in order to really fulfill the potential of what trains could do. Similarly, I mean, I was talking to a journalist yesterday about cars. You know, when the first cars came out, people walked in front of them with red flags. Yeah, to say there's a car coming, right? And now, 100 or so years later, we're talking about automated cars, but that's a long time. It's still a car. It's the same, that's actually, true. The same, okay, we're beginning to use different forms of, we're using electricity instead of petrol or diesel, but it's still a car.
Yeah, I get that, talking about responsibility and accountability in AI, which I mean, in a lot of your lectures and speeches, I've heard you talk about responsible AI and how passionate you are about that. Where do you think responsibility and ethics should be placed when it comes to, let's say, I mean, I understand from being an academic at University of Southampton Delhi that it's something that we try and include in our curriculum as well, as much as we can. But to what extent do you think that's important from a skill perspective and a capability perspective for students today?
Well, the key thing about, when you talk about the curriculum, the concept of responsible AI is an interdisciplinary thing.
Yes. Because
it's ethics, it's business, it's law, it's can you do it technically? So it's mathematics, it's social science, it's psychology, it's so many different things. And I think that in a computer science curriculum, you can obviously talk about these things, but most of the curriculum is going to be about the technology and how you build AI systems. But I think we need to make sure our students are taught to be responsible about what they do. And that should be true for the development of any new technology. Once you think about who should be responsible for responsible AI, it is actually all the key stakeholders. So, of course, the companies should be developing their AI in a responsible way so that it's safe for us to use it and it doesn't do harm as much as they can ensure that. And we don't see that at the moment, particularly. Governments need to think about how they keep their citizens safe and how they ensure that companies are responsible about the way they develop AI systems. And that means potentially passing laws about what you can and can't do in terms of AI and ensuring safety, like the big EU AI Act and so on. And you've got the President of the United States at the moment, which is one of the biggest AI, one of the countries using AI and developing the most, that and China. And you've got the President of the United States saying, we don't want regulation. We're not interested in regulation. So how do we even begin? It's the hardest thing about this, the AI Safety Summit, was that people are beginning to talk about the governance of AI, as we called for in the United Nations report that I was part of, and how we can have conversations, international conversations about how we manage the the big issues in AI about, how do we deal with deep fakes and when crimes are committed using AI and all the sorts of bad things that can happen, potential wars, using it in wars and so on, in the military. Oh, and the big thing here at the summit was that even Sam Altman stood up at the summit and said, Sam Altman, head of OpenAI, we need governance. We need to have a dialogue about governance because these things in the wrong hands, used the wrong way, can be dangerous. Just like a car can or an aeroplane can or a drug, but it is more because people do stuff with AI. It's not just about building the product. Sam Altman called for it, as many of the leaders were, and then we had the announcement from the US saying, no, we don't want any global dialogue, no regulation. We just want to be able to innovate and win. And that's so irresponsible. And that was it felt like a bucket of cold water being poured all over us at the summit. So that will change over time. It has to. But that was why the statement from the summit was watered down a lot.
Okay, so since
can I say one other thing before you carry on, which is that the other thing is there are three major sets of stakeholders: companies, governments, and us. So there's civil society. We have to learn to use this technology in a responsible way. And I think we've got to reset our moral compass a bit. We learnt with the internet that you can do anything you like on the internet, really. Nobody will hold you to account. There are certain things, if you break the law, there are certain laws about copyright, which the AI companies don't hold, and racial, hate speech and things like that. Various countries have various different laws on it. But generally speaking, we've got this idea that because because it's possible, you can be awful to other people in a way you wouldn't be in the real world. And we really need to, bring people up to, you've got to be responsible about it. You shouldn't bully people online just because you can. And so there's an education piece here as well, and moral values that we set. And of course, we're culturally all very different because China has a very different view of all this. And actually, they don't allow freedom of speech like we do, and they control they look at all the content, or they can. But the result of that is it's safer for citizens to be online in China than in the US or Europe. And I don't know about India so much. So it's a balance of what you're prepared to accept from your government and what you're prepared to do for yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing that I want to ask, and is sort of the two questions put together. First is, since you mentioned that you've been since the inception of the computer science program at University of Southampton, UK, what do you think makes University of Southampton different in terms of education, in terms of research, and all the parallels that we kind of make out of the triple helix model?
Mm-hmm. Well, we are one of the strongest computer science departments in the UK and in the world to some extent. We have always been. We have also, Southampton, I think the way I'd answer that is very good at encouraging interdisciplinary work. I've spent my entire career applying computers in other subjects and doing stuff on the web and now in AI. And we have, I direct the Web Science Institute, which is an interdisciplinary research institute. And I run AI at Southampton, which is an interdisciplinary institute, if you want to call it, for, research, education, innovation in AI across the whole university. And we're not the only university that does that, but we have always been very good at that. And I think I've often asked myself why I've stayed at Southampton for so long. I have been tempted away at some points and never, for all sorts of reasons, not moved. And one of the reasons I think is that Southampton's always provided me with the type of research and teaching environment that enables me to do my interdisciplinary work and to start things like web science. Which was very pioneering, and Southampton gave us the ability to do that with MIT, okay, but when we started it with Tim. But and I'm doing the same now with some of the AI stuff we're doing, and we are experimenting with different new courses in this area, and Southampton allows us some freedoms to do that. We have to, of course, like any university, you've got to attract students. So I can't go completely off the wall. Yeah. We have to run courses that will attract students. And then we're pretty good at one point, we were top of the league in the UK in terms of enterprise and startups. We were up there with the Harvards of this world at one point. We're not up there in terms of, well, I don't know actually. Got new stuff coming out. New companies coming out of some parts of engineering. We have a lot in the marine world, very, top of the tree in terms of marine and maritime studies. My world, cutting edge in terms of cancer studies, all sorts of things. And we're encouraged to do that. Academic staff are encouraged to lead on in innovation, enterprise work. We have a really great part of the university called Future Worlds, which is, and I think you've heard about them here already, that helps students think about running startups while they're doing their degree. So I don't know if I've explained enough. It's just generally, it's a friendly place, and it's also a place that enables people to genuinely innovate.
Okay, so that takes me to a follow-up question to that. So India is a growing AI ecosystem, and it's got all the characteristics: scale, ambition, talent. Now we at University of Southampton Delhi, which is like the Delhi campus of University of Southampton, yes. How do you think we can contribute to this growing, and the challenges and the opportunities that come with this growing AI ecosystem that India is promising to be?
Well, let me answer that by saying I was hugely impressed with the summit. Was a complete zoo. And 250,000 people, it was chaos. It was very India, and everything was last minute. And nobody knew what they were doing, sometimes not even when you were doing it. And, it was just, I'm also going to call my blog or whatever I do, Waiting for Modi, because I did hang around a lot of time waiting for Modi to turn up. But what was wonderful was to see something we wouldn't see in the West. You might see it in China, but was to see the young people who came, school kids, young students, young people who are looking for the careers they're going to do, so enthusiastic about AI. It's a very negative feeling about AI in Europe and the US, because it's all about the dangers and the risks, and is it going to kill us all, and the job losses, right? But here people were abuzz with the opportunities, and they're huge. And there are opportunities here. First of all, you have the scale, of course, but the opportunities of things you need to sort of challenges you have with in India, with, helping people in the rural areas and all the people on the poverty line. And we have some of that, but not on the scale you have it here. And the impact that AI is going to have on the development of medicines, foods security, water resources, all the things it's going to help us, the big challenges that we face as societies. So it's very interesting. As I wrote in my book, The Four Internets, about the geopolitics of the internet, it's the same with AI. You know, you have the two big contenders of the US and China. Europe tries to play, but it's all about bureaucracy and as Trump would say, stopping innovation. But in our book, we called India the swing state, because you're 1.4 billion people, and the way you decide to go on technology can very much determine how the technology evolves. Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting for me to see whether you're going to use the US models or the Chinese models or a mix of both. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. It was quite interesting. In the summit, it happened to coincide with Chinese New Year. So there were very few Chinese people at the summit. I like to think that wasn't deliberate on behalf of the Indian government, but it was quite noticeable. But then I know there are good relations between India and China, and you're one of the countries that can work with both the US and China. And I think it's very interesting as to how which of those, or will you use both, or will you favor one or the other as you start to, I think you're going to be mostly about applying AI in new ways, novel ways. And that's why you can really think about AI for the good here. And you can help hold the companies that are producing the AI to account.
Okay, so because you mentioned that this market might largely be application of AI and not so much into the foundational AI, what do you think would be an ideal AI CS graduate in your viewpoint as somebody who's a seasoned academic?
AI CS? What do you mean?
Artificial intelligence, computer science / computer science graduate.
I got that bit, but are they studying computer science or AI or both? I don't understand.
So, I mean, they're doing foundational computer science. We're coming up with a postgraduate program in data science. Okay. And they're doing bits and pieces of artificial intelligence in both. So as somebody who graduates from these programs, and to be locally impactful and globally relevant, which both of these are important, what do you think should be the skill set and the mindset that graduates should focus on?
Well, that's quite hard. I mean, that's a big question. I think they should be aware of how they need to be responsible in what they develop. And I really, really, really hope that India will, over time, as I said, hold the companies to account and actually be fully part of the dialogue about how we manage AI safety at a global level. I think that's something that India can really, really help with. It also depends on the infrastructure you're going to build. The data centers, the fast networks, and so on, to deliver the AI to the farms in the rural areas and things like that, or everywhere and across the country. In terms of what I also feel very strongly that AI should not be thought of as a subset of computer science. I've always done the interdisciplinary thing, and I would like to see that happen here in Southampton Delhi as well. So you for sure, you have your core programs where you teach computer science. At Southampton, UK, we've just started an undergraduate program in AI. You may do the same here, or you may just teach for a while computer science with AI, because that's how we were teaching. We had a degree in computer science with AI in the 90s, and I've had it for that long. And I think you'll develop into that, I'm sure. Yeah. Whether you do a separate AI program or not, I don't know. But in Southampton, UK, the AI program is being taught as part from the computer science department. But I feel very strongly, as Southampton does generally, that AI should be, it should be thought of as an interdisciplinary program. So every student at Southampton, they've just put a press release out about this home base. Every student at Southampton will have a module they can take to immerse themselves in AI in the context of their subject. So if you're a history student or a mechanical engineering student, you'll be able to take a module designed for you to help you understand how to apply AI safely and rigorously. And I want to say, I can't think of the right verb, in a way that innovates in your own subject area. And I think, again, this will show how good AI is at doing the interdisciplinary work.
Okay, well...
I don't know if I really answered your question, but that's what you're going to get today.
Okay. Since diversity and inclusion are, they are ranked really highly in Southampton's ethos, and I've heard you speak a lot about women in computing and how that has changed over the years and whether it has changed or not. When you look back, do you think the change has been swift enough?
No,
or fast enough?
No.
Or has there been any change at all?
No. I've talked about this here several times. I talked, when I did my keynote at the AI Summit, I didn't in the talk itself talk about lack of diversity. But I asked my moderator to bring it up in the conversation afterwards. I don't want to be known as the woman who talks about the lack of women in subjects, science. I want to be known for my science and my leadership in science and engineering. But I also have always felt very strongly that there were not enough women in technology, and that's now even more true in AI, because a lot of the times, particularly the AI, the foundational AI coming from the companies and being taught in computer science departments, you're teaching students who have a computer science or maths degree. So there's less women there anyway. And then you're saying now you're going to go into this AI degree, which is a very sort of male-dominated conversation. So you have even less women percentage-wise going into those programs. And then when you look at, the world here at the summit, on the Thursday, the World Leaders' Day, there were endless male politicians and CEOs. They each have 5 minutes, And there was one woman, there was one woman who was the CEO of a consultancy company, and there were 2 or 3 women at the end on panels. And it was just totally male-dominated. The leadership of AI, completely male-dominated. But and as my moderator for my talk said, in India, and it's true let's just go back. In India, you have a lot of, something like 40% women coming through into computer science classes. That's higher than us. And then you have quite a high percentage, relatively, of women going into PhDs, postdocs. But once you go up the tree, they disappear. And he was asking me why. What is it? And this is true in many fields, not just science and engineering. Where are the women leaders? And partly, it's not the whole answer, but the answer I come up with is that you just I've been resistant and I've managed to push forward, and I was confident and ambitious enough to keep going. But basically women get fed up with the sort of alpha male type environment they have to work in, and the competition and the put downs and the patronizing statements and the lack of acceptance of their ideas. The number of times I put forward an idea, most women agree with this, and it's dismissed by everybody in the meeting room, and then a week later it comes back from one of the men in the room, and they go, "Oh, that's a great idea." Have you experienced that?
Yes.
we have it all the time. Yeah. My friend Dame Stephanie Shirley, she changed her name when she was a young entrepreneur in computing to Steve Shirley because she couldn't get work as a woman. And we all know her as Steve. She unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. But her name is Stephanie. She married a Mr. Shirley, which is interesting. So which is a first name in the UK. And so she became a dame. So she was Dame Steve Shirley. And she always used to talk about, she built up a company and became a very rich woman, and then became one of the UK's top female philanthropists. She gave it all away. And she used to talk about how women leaders have flat heads. Do you know why? Because of the constant patting on the head. Don't worry, dear. Don't worry, pull your little head about this. It's all too complicated for you. And we get it. I'm talking in the extreme there, but that's you just happens all the time. Still happens to me.
So where do you see this going? 10 years down the line, maybe? I mean, how do you see the future of computer science and artificial intelligence and
It's
leadership?
very hard for me to answer that because I've been in this area for 40 years, and I really I've tried to shift the dial myself. And you can make a difference at the entry level and it was great to see the girls coming in the school visit today. But it's really hard to get, it's just so difficult to, this happens in other fields as well, to get women to sustain themselves into the leadership roles. And I wish I knew the answer. I just keep batting away and trying to be a role model. And when people say, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? Well, it's like, for me, it was all about mentoring. I had very, very good mentors, men and women, and I didn't go out to it was people I came across, like Steve Shirley. I mean, God, heaven, she intimidated me to death first time I met her, a very intimidating woman. Lovely, but I was scared of her. And people say they're scared of me, but I don't know. Try not to be scary. But she was such a good mentor. And she'd sit me down and say, Wendy, I'm going to tell you how to do this. Okay, right. And then there was a couple of, Lord Martin Rees was one of the ones, he was the Astronomer Royal, who encouraged me and made me realise I could become a Fellow of the Royal Society. I'd never thought that was attainable. And he just gave me the confidence and the encouragement to go for it. And all sorts of things like that. My husband too, actually. Yeah, my husband too.
Okay, so before I wrap up, I have one, that's more of a personal question from me. What is that, it's sort of the computer scientist in me taking tips from you. So what is the one thing that you think is probably the most exciting upcoming field in computer science? And
you mean other than AI, should we say?
AI, non-AI, anything that you think is going to be really, really exciting in the coming years. And what would be the one advice that you would like to give the computer scientists of today and the future computer scientists?
That's really hard because you never know what's coming around the corner.
As a researcher, yes.
I didn't know when I was playing with videos and pictures and audio files on computers that was going to become the main thing going forward, that we were going to have smartphones with all that on and you'd be interacting with hypermedia systems. I just knew I knew that computers were going to change the way we educated people. And that was what I was trying to do actually at the beginning, was think of new ways to help people. And I think with, say, AI, then personal tutoring systems. I wrote my MSc thesis on intelligent tutoring system in 1982, and I did some code in Prolog. And, just hypothetical in those days, it was science fiction. But we can see now how we could build them. And I think that, you know, they might become a reality. But you don't, when you start out doing some research, you don't know what's going to happen to it. I mean, when Geoffrey Hinton started doing work on neural networks, he's one of the fathers of AI, won the Nobel Prize and the Turing Award. I doubt very much he knew what it was going to lead to, because when he started that work, the internet didn't exist. And my argument is that the generative AI that we're evolving to today wouldn't exist without the internet, because they wouldn't have the data, and people wouldn't be able to have access to it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can't see what else is going to be invented. And I think, I don't know if you came to the talk or not with the school kids, I was talking about how when one of the big turning points in the development of the internet was when the iPhone appeared, because you could use because if you could access the internet as you were moving around, the smartphone enabled you to do that. Mm. And that changed everything. And you don't know, when I was doing the work in multimedia, I didn't know there were going to be smartphones. Mm. You think about it, sci-fi gives us some of these ideas. I was incredibly inspired by things like 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, the whole thing about, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. You know, and I wrote a research proposal about how you applied agents in the world of intelligent information systems back in the 90s. That was the basis of my EPSRC fellowship. And I didn't know then that AI was going to evolve in such a way as it has, and that the agents would be, suddenly everything's agentic computing, right? Mm. But this is, so it's really hard to know how the technology you're inventing might or might not take, you know, what might enable it to take off or actually become something that everyone uses. So I think you just have to go with your head and heart, really. Go with your passion. One thing I don't have a passion about, but everyone says is the future, is quantum computing. I decided, I drew a line at that because I thought I can't do everything. So I'm not an expert in quantum computing. I know enough, but I'm not an expert in quantum computing. And it's been a slow burn. Mm-hmm. And everyone, you know, we still don't know how that is going to affect the world, and what maybe the generative AI is the thing that is needed for the quantum computing breakthrough. Maybe it's those two technologies coming together that will actually give us the leap forward. Don't know yet. So it's basically keep an open mind, be excited.
Thank you.
Follow your passions.
Thank you for the advice. And thank you so much for the insightful conversation.
Oh,
and thank you for being here with the University of Southampton Delhi community.
My pleasure.
It is actually, I mean, conversations like these that are a quiet reminder that computer science is not just about algorithms and systems. It's about changing the society and making an impact. With that, I will just say a big thank you from us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing such a good interview.